I found my 5-year-old son burning with fever, lying on the cold floor, while my sister toasted with wine in the living room using the money I had sent to care for him. It was 10:17 at night when I opened the door to my parents' house in Querétaro. I had flown back from Dubai 1 week early without telling anyone, because for 3 straight days Lydia had made excuses about why I could not video call Mateo. He's asleep, Brenda. Your mom took him to the park. Don't be so intense. We have lives too. Something in my stomach told me to buy the ticket and come home. I could hear the music from the front door for people were laughing. In the living room, Lydia and 3 friends were surrounded by wine bottles, sushi trays, and shopping bags from expensive stores. My sister, the family's favorite child, was wearing a new dress. She did not even stand up when she saw me. "Oh, you're here already," she said, annoyed. "Weren't you supposed to come back next week?" I did not answer, because then I saw Mateo in the corner near the air vent, lying on a thin blanket. His face was red, his lips were dry, and a plate of dried-up soup sat beside him. I dropped to my knees and touched his forehead. He was burning. "Mom," he whispered, barely opening his eyes. I lifted him into my arms. My little boy weighed less than I remembered. "How long has he been like this?" Lydia picked up her glass. "He's exaggerating. Kids get sick." "How long?" "Since the day before yesterday, I think." A part of me turned to stone. I carried him to the car without arguing. At the emergency room, they told me he had a fever of 102.2 degrees and mild dehydration. The doctor looked at me with the kind of expression people use when they are already thinking about filing a report. "This looks like neglect," she said. "I am required to notify Child Protective Services." I nodded. I could not defend the indefensible. At 1 in the morning, I returned to the house with Mateo asleep in my arms. My parents were awake. My mother, Carmen, did not ask about the child. She asked why I had caused a scene at the hospital. I went upstairs to check my daughter Lucia's room. She was staying with her father that month. I opened the door, and the world disappeared for a second. Her white butterfly bed was gone. Her books, dolls, drawings, everything had vanished. In their place was a new bed, new toys, and a framed photo of Lydia with her daughter Emma. "Where are Lucia's things?" My mother appeared behind me in a pink robe. "You said Lydia could use the room while you were away." "I never said that. You were very busy working. Maybe you forgot." Then my father, Ricardo Salazar, came in holding a folder. For years, he had been one of the most respected family lawyers in Querétaro. I grew up believing he was fair. That night, he looked at me like I was a failed case. "Brenda, you are upset. Let's not do this." He pulled out some papers. "You signed an authorization before you left. Expanded temporary care for your children." I recognized the first page. It was a medical permission form in case of an emergency. But the second page, the one discussing shared custody with my parents, was something I had never seen. "I did not sign this." My father smiled without warmth. "Your signature was notarized." Then he pulled out a family court order. My legs started shaking. According to that paper, Mateo had to remain with my parents until a custody review. "I am taking my son," I said. My father blocked the stares. "If you remove him without authorization, you will be in contempt. And believe me, daughter, no one in that courthouse is going to go against me." Downstairs, Mateo slept sick and exhausted. Upstairs, Lucia's room had been erased. And in my father's hands was the cage he had been building around me for months. That night, I understood my family had knowingly stolen my money. They were trying to steal my children. I slept in a cheap roadside hotel, although sleep is a generous word for staring at the ceiling until sunrise. At 6, I started calling lawyers. The first had no availability. The second spoke to me for 3 minutes and hung up when he heard the name Ricardo Salazar. The third said there was a conflict of interest. By noon, I knew the truth. My father was still too powerful. The 8th call changed everything. A young receptionist called me back from her personal phone. "I should not be telling you this, Mrs. Salazar, but my boss reviewed your case and said he will not go against your father. Nobody wants to touch Ricardo Salazar." I hung up and opened my laptop. If no one was willing to fight for me, I would start fighting alone. I reviewed my bank transfers. For 3 months, I had sent 90,000 pesos a month for Mateo's food, medicine, and school. Every payment went into my mother's account, and the next day, it moved into Lydia's account. Clothes. Restaurants. A used SUV. Parties for Emma. Not one doctor's receipt for Mateo. Then I requested reports from Child Protective Services. There were 5 anonymous complaints in 1 year: absent mother, crying child, unstable care. All vague. All enough to build a file against me. My father had planted the trap while I was working to support them. When I searched his name online, I found an old article about a custody case from 2009. A mother named Sarah Martinez had lost her son after anonymous reports, confusing paperwork, and a meeting at a church. The lawyer who defended her was named Marcos Vega. I called him that night. My name is Brenda Salazar. I think my father is doing to me what he did in the Sara Martinez case. There was silence. I have been waiting 15 years for this call, he said. The next day, Marcos took me to meet Sara. She had tired eyes, and she served me coffee while telling me how my father helped her ex-family take her son. He never broke the law, she said. He bent a tongue till it looked like justice. Sara agreed to testify. But we needed something criminal. The breakthrough came when I tried to enroll Mateo in a state medical assistance program. The system flagged an error. Mateo was already listed as Lydia's dependent. She had been collecting food assistance for 8 months. She had also claimed him on her taxes as if he were her child. Marcos slammed his hand on the table. This is not just a family dispute anymore, this is fraud. With his help and attorney Raquel Torres, we filed an emergency motion. We included the medical report for neglect, my transfers, Lydia's fraud, the anonymous reports, and Sara's testimony. My father called me 14 times that afternoon. Brenda, you are destroying the family. For the first time, I did not answer. On Thursday, I walked into court. My father stood on the other side in a gray suit with a stone face. Lydia cried like she was the victim. I carried one folder in a fear so tight in my throat I could barely breathe. The judge opened the file and said, "Today, we are going to hear the whole truth." The emergency room doctor testified first. She explained that Mateo had been sick for at least 48 hours without proper care, that his fever was dangerous, and that his condition justified a report to Child Protective Services. Lydia lowered her eyes. My mother squeezed a tissue as if the suffering belonged to her. Then they discussed the bank accounts. Raquel showed every transfer I had sent, every peso moved from my mother to Lydia, every useless purchase made while my son was eating leftovers on the floor. Mrs. Lydia Salazar also registered the minor as a dependent to receive food assistance and tax benefits, Raquel said. All of it was done without the mother's consent. The judge looked at Lydia. You collected government money using a child who was not your legal dependent? Lydia started crying. It was a mistake. I only wanted to help. Helping is not collecting money for a sick child you left without medical care, the judge replied. Then Sara Martinez entered the courtroom. She walked slowly, but her voice did not shake. She told the court how she lost her son 15 years earlier through the same pattern, documents she did not understand, anonymous reports, and a religious meeting where everyone told her to surrender for the good of the child. For the first time, my father shifted in his chair. His attorney objected. That has no direct relevance. The judge interrupted him. It does if it shows a pattern of behavior. My father's face lost color. When it was my turn to testify, I told them everything. Dubai. The calls Lydia blocked. Mateo on the floor. Lucia's room erased. The court order I had never understood and never accepted. My voice broke only once, when I spoke about leaving Mateo there that night. I did not leave him because I wanted to. I left because my own father threatened to use the law against me. The judge ordered a review of the supposed authorization. A handwriting expert recommended by Raquel explained that the second page had printing differences and that my signature had been lifted from an old medical permission form. It was not a complete authorization. It was a forgery. My father stood up. Your Honor, this the emotional exaggeration of an unstable mother. The judge looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Salazar, the only instability I see here is a family that used legal knowledge to isolate a working mother and take control of her child. The silence was brutal. After a 2-hour recess, the judge returned. I felt like I could not breathe. Full custody is immediately restored to Brenda Salazar. Mateo must be returned to his mother today. Lydia Salazar and Ricardo Salazar are prohibited from having unsupervised contact with the minor. The court will also refer this matter to prosecutors for possible document forgery, fraud involving public benefit programs, and procedural manipulation. My mother let out a dry sob. Lydia screamed that I was ungrateful. My father said nothing. He just sat there defeated, as if for the first time he understood that not every judge owed him a favor. I went to pick up Mateo that same afternoon with a social worker beside me. When he saw me at the door, he hesitated. Then he ran into my arms. Mom, can I go with you now? I dropped to my knees and hugged him so tightly the social worker had to remind me to breathe. Yes, my love. We're going home. A week later, I recovered Lucia's things. Some of them were in trash bags in the garage. Herbs had been sold. I bought her a new one, even prettier. When she came back from her father's house, we decorated her new room together in the apartment I rented 2 hours away from Querétaro. The following months were hard. Lydia was ordered to repay the money she had taken illegally. She received community service and probation. My father did not go to prison, but the Bar Association opened an investigation into his previous maneuvers. The respect he had built over 40 years collapsed in 1 week. At the market, at church, at the cafe where he used to brag about his victories, people no longer shook his hand the same way. Sarah Martinez made her story public. Then 3 other women came forward. Each of them had faced the same enemy wearing a different mask. My case did not only save Mateo. It opened a door that had been locked for years. My mother tried to contact me once. "You have no idea what you have done. Your father is destroyed." "I know exactly what it did. I got my son back." "We are your family." "No," I said. "You were my origin. My family is the people who do not use my children as weapons." I hung up and never answered her again. Today, Mateo goes to kindergarten. He sleeps with a dinosaur nightlight and does not wake up crying as often. Lucia put new butterflies in her wall and says this house finally smells like us. I work for a logistics company with stable hours now. I do not make what I made in Dubai, but I get home in time to eat dinner with my children. And that is worth more than any contract. One afternoon, I received a letter from Sarah. It said only one thing: "Thank you. You did what I could not." I kept it beside the first photo of Mateo smiling at his new school. Sometimes it still hurts to know that the people who should have protected me were the same people who tried to destroy me. But I no longer confuse blood with love. Blood is inherited. Love is proven. And anyone who uses the law, guilt, or familito take your children from you does not deserve a chair at your table. That night, I closed the door of our new home, listened to my children laughing in their room, and understood something. I had not lost a family. I had escaped a cage.